Hello, this is Kevin Best with another episode of Great Leaders Serve. Today, we're talking with Bryan Coblentz, president of Maven. Bryan, tell me about yourself and your company. What is Maven?
So Maven is a wood operation. We're in Ohio, and we are a vertical story. We began as a sawmill back in the 70s. And so today we harvest trees, we process those trees, we bring the logs into our facility, and we process the logs, we dry the lumber, and then we take it into our wood shop, and we produce everything from dining furniture to bedroom sets, the full sets in multiple species. We do some flooring, have done some flooring in the past as well. So we really harvest trees, and then we add value to them, and then we ship them to customers all across the country.
So, and your role as president, is this a company that you started, or was it started by somebody else and you've taken over?
So the sawmill would have been started by my father and grandfather back in the 70s. But we never wanted to be a large sawmill. That was never the goal. And so the plan was to be a vertical story for a long time. And so when I was around 20 years old, I wanted to start a furniture department or company. And so I started the furniture company along with a couple brothers. And so I did not start the mother company, but I would have started the furniture side, which then 5 years ago, we merged everything together. So we've always operated all four entities as one, even though they were their own companies.
Okay. And talk a little bit about serving leadership. You and I have talked in the past that you are a proponent of serving leadership within the organization. Tell me how you utilize that idea to be able to help your business grow.
Well, the serving leadership model for us really became important about 15 years ago. We got into some markets that really caused our company to see a lot of growth. And it soon became apparent to us that we couldn't outwork it. We couldn't, there weren't enough hours in the day, week, whatever, we couldn't outwork it. And so we had to outplan, we had to outthink it. And that is about the time I became aware of the serving leadership model. We were taught growing up before, it was known as the serving leadership model. But we were taught some of those principles. And so it was a pretty natural fit for us. Not easy, but we were somewhat familiar with some of the principles. And so that really helped us to get it ingrained early on. And it's like anything else. It takes a long time to really get the culture for it to become ingrained in the culture. But it was, I think even early on, we could see that it was the right choice, even though it was going to take some time to get it implemented.
Can you talk a little bit about some of those? I could see you hesitate trying to say the right words there. So obviously you had some concerns and some problems implementing initially. What were some of those implementation issues that you were running into?
Yeah, so when I think of serving leadership, so some of those principles they're just counterintuitive, and they are not. You have to, when you've got this little company, you've got this little baby that you've got to nurture, and you've got to know everything about it, and everything is in your lap. It is up to you to do, and as you transitioned into more of a serving leadership model, you're empowering others, and you become more of a coach or a cheerleader or things of that nature. And it feels like you don't always know what's going on. And yet there has to be an element of that if you're going to empower others. You have to let go, and that at times can be very difficult.
So when you're talking about that now, so now it's 15 years later after you've kind of implemented that system, so it sounds like it's working. What keeps you up at night at this point?
Really, probably along those same lines, is feeling like I have the pulse of what is actually going on throughout the company, from buying timber or interacting with farmers, all through the process. Feeling like I know that things are headed in the right direction, and yet empowering people as much as possible, because that's what we've found is if we want great people don't want to be micromanaged. They want ownership, they want freedom, flexibility, and so you're really responsible for a lot of things that are not in your control, and so just sort of walking that tightrope sometimes.
So when you're bringing in a person that has the potential to be great, but they've never been trained with the idea that they can be empowered, I am assuming that most of the people are not coming in with the idea that I'm going to be empowered in this. They are assuming they are an employee of an organization and they're going to be told what to do. How do the employees take it when you're starting to train them about empowerment?
Well, we really try to do our due diligence before we bring anyone on. And so that is one of the things that is part of the interviewing process is we talk a lot about we're going to share our vision. You're going to know where we're trying to get to. We'll have our objectives, but we are not looking over your shoulder all the time. We give you a lot of freedom and flexibility. We're constantly available. And so we try to have a healthy culture like that. But there have been people that have most of the time, the people that we've brought in the company have really appreciated it and have thrived because of it. But there has been a few occasions where, maybe, that freedom has not served them well. And then we've got to reel things in a little bit, bring in the foul lines a little bit. So, but it can be done. Both of them work.
So talk about is there a training program that people go through when they enter your organization to be able to help them learn how to become better serving leaders?
So many of our both leaders and potential leaders, they would attend a John Stahl-wert cohort. Along with that, we also have a few different coaching curriculums that we have outside. Independent people come in and they just talk through different scenarios, but it all has a serving leadership theme to it. So yeah, they're getting this teaching from probably 2, if not 3 sources.
Excellent. When you think about your business now, what are some unique financial challenges that that come to you on either a regular basis or irregular basis, and you utilize your serving leader to help you walk through that challenge?
Yeah. A lot of the financial, it's not a perfect science, but the skills, the team component is a very, very important part of what makes our company unique. We, being as diversified as we are, we have to have people that are trained, coached up, willing and able to go from one building one item and then the next day doing something entirely different. And so there's a big financial commitment to doing that. It's really it's who our company is, with allowing a lot of personalization. But the financial component to that is just, it's all wrapped up in the machines, in the just how the shop floor operates. So there's large financial commitments to offering the product lines that we do.
All right. And when you look at the organizations that you're dealing with, you have to bring in other advisors, other people from outside of the organization. They're not employees of yours, so they're not going through the training that you have them go through. They're not doing as much vetting as you might be with an employee that you're going to bring on. However, they have skill sets that you need to have, whether they're attorneys, accountants, insurance people, other financial professionals in there. Do you look for the skill set first of what you need them to do, or do you look for a serving leader mindset and hope the skill comes along with it?
Well, that's a fascinating topic, because we have found some of our most valued partnerships, whether it is a vendor relationship, it can be anything. Oftentimes they have these same values. It's not a perfect world. There are some that, operate their business different than we do. And it works. But by far, our best relationships are the ones with the same values. But it is character first for us. We feel if we find people that share our values and our high character, the skills can be taught in most cases.
And when you're thinking about some of these professionals here, you have them in mind. Is it easier to work with them if they're local, or how do you work with ones that are on the other side of the country when you're dealing with the business that you have and you have to deal with somebody far away?
Yeah, the closer they are to us, often the more interaction with them that we have. And so the ones that get out, on the other side of the country, it's maybe not quite as important for us, as far as the vendor relationships, although it is still definitely a factor. But it's difficult. It's difficult to have a very meaningful relationship if we get too far out of alignment with our values and so on.
And so if you do get out of alignment with somebody, how do you deal with that? Do you say, well, we're just going to get through this? Do you get rid of them? How do you deal with it? Do you try to train them in the idea of serving leadership?
Well, we've done several of those. We have tried to share what has worked for us. And I think we've probably made some inroads in some of those cases. But there's a case that comes to my mind right now where we really switched suppliers, changed vendors, because there was one that was very much in alignment with the way we do business, and one that was not. Not necessarily bad people, but just they saw business different than we did, and so it made it easy to change that relationship.
So now if I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, you have family, you deal with the community as well. How does your serving leader mindset help you with your family? How does it help you with your community?
It's a universally good program. I mean, who doesn't like to work and be around a serving leader? I'm very fortunate. I get to work with a lot of them. Our community here is very blessed to have some great leaders here. There's some good companies, good organizations that where we're located, if you're not a good serving leader, you're in for a tough environment. It really is. You've got to. Our community, I think, here is has enough exposure to this model where you need to be a good leader.
And when you think about, let's go back to your family specifically, and how do you raise your children to be good serving leaders?
When I was growing up, before I had ever heard of the serving leader, I remember my dad telling me, if you're around good people, if you have good employees, just remember you are not the boss. And so it was principles like that are some of my earliest memories. And so some of those they always stuck with me. And so I think some of those that I learned from him, and just, we really are in a people world. I mean, it is about relationships. Relationships matter. And it doesn't mean that you are a marshmallow and you can be, run over. That's not what it means. But you have got to like people. You've got to appreciate people and build others up. That gets you so far in life, I think.
So when I think of serving leaders, I'm thinking of, obviously there's two words. There's serving and there's leaders. You mentioned a little bit about not getting run over, not being a marshmallow. That goes to the leadership side of it. So a lot of people would like to serve, but they don't like to lead. And I think there's a difference there. And there's a lot of people who like to lead, but they don't want to serve. So how do you combine the two of those? Because sometimes it sounds like they can be at odds with each other.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that for myself was eye-opening. If we're intentional about building a really strong and good culture, those don't happen by accident. And there's often tough decisions that need to be made. There's difficult conversations that need to be had. But it really, there is I've heard the analogy of the velvet covered brick, where you have your heart of resolve, but you have it wrapped in velvet. And so that's a good mental picture for me often, is to, you have to know where you stand on things, but you also have to, you have to interact properly while doing that.
All right. And when you're looking around and you're saying, this is how, as you said, in my community, there are a lot of great serving leaders. There's a lot of good serving leaders, and I'm blessed to have that. But you're not always in your community. Your business is going to take you to different parts of the country. So how do you find serving leaders in different parts of the country? I'm not quite sure how you go about finding them, but I know when you run into them, you know immediately when you've encountered one of those organizations. And I think that's how we can make a difference in the world, because it is still a novel concept. I think it is, like I said, it's counterintuitive in many ways, and so that is one of the ways we can make a difference to our businesses. And then there's a lot of people that are going to come see you at different times for different reasons. A lot of these people might be asking you advice on how they can be better at what they're doing. So how do you help them? How do you help them be the better person, regardless of the age that they're at? How do you help them? They're looking to you as that leader. How are you helping them?
I would say find those mentors. Find those mentors that you can connect to. I have been so fortunate to have just throughout my life, just really wise people around me. I think for me, that has been one of the biggest things for me, is to surround yourself with be intentional in who you surround yourself with, because one conversation at the right time with the right person can springboard you. And so that's a pretty key. That's been very key for me.
And when you find those people, how do you keep them around? How do you make sure that that great leader that you want to have as your mentor stays in the area that you need them to be?
Well, in my case, I think if I got anything right, it's that I listen to them. And when I think when they saw that the wisdom that they were sharing was being passed along, was being incorporated, I think that's probably why they kept giving me more and giving me more of their time and hanging around.
So the last thing that I have one more question for you, and I think we can wrap it up for today. When you think about the future of your company and you're thinking about next generations, do you feel that you're building the business to be able to have those leaders to easily take over? Or what happens at that point when you're ready to move on to the next level or whatever you're going to do next? How are you training the people to want to take over and be that leader next?
Yeah, that's something that's very it's very much on my mind, is to prepare the future generations. And I think just having a good vision for where we're wanting to get to, I think goes a long way. But yeah, getting those goals out there, sharing the track record of what has gotten us here, but making sure that hunger is there. Whatever those handful of ideals are, goals are, that is my job now, I think, is to get that instilled in these younger people or whoever's next, getting that into them. But I think the serving leadership model does a nice job of that, developing the people around you. I mean, that's really what it's about. And so if we do that properly, we should be in a pretty decent starting spot there.
Hey, Bryan, I want to thank you for joining me today on this podcast. And for everybody else who's listening right now and watching, please remember to like or subscribe. And you can find more of these podcasts on your favorite podcast station. So thank you, Bryan, for joining us, and we'll talk to everybody else soon.
For more information about the Center for Serving Leadership, visit our website at centerforservingleadership.com.